Are we gonna go? Do we have?
I don't think we have any executive session this meeting for the first time in a while. So
unless you want to do one just to approve the minutes from the last one, or does that become like a redundant cycle kind of thing? I mean, they were not all that.
Yeah, I mean, we could, I guess, at the end pop into executive session just to approve the minutes and then leave. That's certainly fine.
If it's not worth it, we've let them accumulate before. So
yeah, I think we should, because I didn't put it on the agenda, and I think you otherwise are supposed to list it as an agenda item if you're planning to do an executive session. So
were there minutes from the executive session? Because I'm.
Yeah, it basically says we worked on the paper.
Okay, well, yeah. I think we should probably approve that.
We did, yeah. Yes. And I actually handed that off to the select board and to the town administrator. So, right. I think they've been pretty busy with budget stuff, but my guess is we'll probably be meeting with them, after the new year at some point to discuss that. So, and probably this stuff as well.
We can probably approve the minutes that just say we approved the paper, right? If that's all it is.
I think if there's nothing in those minutes, Dave, that would constitute a
discussion.
Well, it does have the motion to approve the paper.
Yeah. Again, I'm happy waiting. We will at some point in the very near future go back and we'll go back into executive session, I'm sure, within the next couple meetings, whether it's a follow-up on that discussion or something else. So I think we can probably wait to approve those.
Sounds good.
Okay. Let me call the December meeting of the Belmont IT Advisory Committee to order. It's Wednesday evening, December 16th, and we do have a quorum. So I'll call the meeting to order. And let me just get the, I think the first order of business is to approve the minutes from our November meeting. And so if folks want to get that document open, and I will share my copy of it on the screen if that would be helpful. If you'll give me a minute.
I just want to double check. I'm pretty sure we've mentioned that the report that we've been discussing in executive session is about ransomware, but if we haven't discussed that, maybe we shouldn't mention it.
Yeah. I don't know that we
realize you're being recorded, Dan, right?
Well, I mean, accidents happen to recordings all the time. I have a feeling we've talked about it before, but
we don't even need an 18-minute gap on this one.
No, we'll all just turn around and start over again.
Hold on.
I know, it's going straight to YouTube. Hi, Mom.
We're Facebook live streaming. Sorry, Dave, I'm just trying to get the minutes up, and I've got them right here. Okay. Okie doke. Let me just send. Can people see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just going to move that to my other screen, so I'm still looking at it. I'm still,
yep.
But I'm looking, it looks like I'm looking away.
That's fine. Okay, so Ellen was present.
Yeah, I reviewed them this afternoon. They looked fine.
Yep. Anybody, I did as well. I didn't have any changes, but does anybody have any changes to the content that's here?
I do not. I'll make a motion. We approve these minutes.
Second?
All in favor? And I'll just do a voice roll call vote. Paul Roberts, aye. Jonathan Green,
Aye.
Dan Ellard,
Aye.
Jim Barretts,
Yes.
Glenn Wong,
I
and Phil Lawrence.
Aye.
And of course, Mr. Goldberg, I'm guessing you're an aye as well.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, minutes are approved. I will stop sharing. Okay. The next item on our agenda, unless there's nobody from the public present, so that's fine, is, hold on one sec. Just the move on to the discussion of our remote meetings report, which Glenn, thank you very much for both the survey and for the updates to the report to reflect the survey. And I had a chance to take a look at it and read it over. I'm hoping the rest of you did as well. Let me just bring it up on my screen here, and we can go through it again together. Okay.
As I noticed, a number of you had made some comments to it, and just now I was starting to approve a number of those comments. You know, grammatical errors. So thank you for catching those. But yeah, the general piece of this was, you know, this is basically the report that, you know, Paul had largely authored, that we used and had planned to present, or, you know, planned to hand off on the March 16th meeting, right?
Great timing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if you didn't have a chance to read it, basically the exec summary is right up front, and it says, look, what we're really suggesting or recommending are two actions. One is, you know, providing our legislators with some suggestions on what changes might be beneficial for open meeting law as they relate to remote participation, because what right now under the state of emergency, the rules are much more permissive than would be allowed under remote participation within open meeting. So certainly I think we should touch on those and see if what I put in there reflects the sentiments of the group, right? And then the second thing was just, you know, our recommendation, which was the first recommendation that we went to the select board with to begin with, which was that under existing open meeting law, you know, they need to authorize committees to use, you know, or at least to even have the option of remote participation. And we encourage them to adopt that.
Yep. So Glenn, I just went in and I just swapped the order of those two, kind of started with the smaller matter, which is allowing town committees the option of having remote meeting participation by committee members.
Yep.
And the second being the advice to the state legislature via Dave and Will, as I thought that might be potentially more problematic for the select board. I don't see why, but it could be. But other than that, I think most of my changes were really pretty mostly grammatical and formatting. I think you really did a good job kind of laying it out. You know, and folks should definitely read through it. I think I created a couple smaller subheadlines just to kind of guide them along. Some of the content kind of near the end of the report, which was written, you know,
basically a year ago.
Almost a year ago, yeah, certainly. Yeah, it probably was written a year ago or close to it. Obviously has been eclipsed by everything that's happened and the executive order, but is still relevant in regard to the letter of the law, the open meeting law. So I tried in a couple places, I think I just sort of, made a note, made a reference to the fact that, obviously events have overtaken some of this stuff. But again, the big problem is if the legislator doesn't act to reform this, then once the executive order expires, we're all going to get a cold shower of really much more limited legal guidelines for.
Right, and the two main ones, let me just call out in terms of the recommendations, is that one, the remote participation under open meeting law still requires that the chair of the meeting doesn't necessarily have to be the chair of the committee. It's just more whoever's chairing that meeting itself, plus a quorum for the committee needs to be physically present. Right.
Right.
So
right.
That's one of the OML requirements. And then the second one was, at least that I was singling out, was that there are, according to like the Attorney General's interpretation of OML, there's only 5 reasons that you could be eligible to even exercise remote participation, right? And it had to do with, illness, physical disability, geographic, distance, and there were 2 more that I'm blanking on. But, the point was there, as we've probably seen, there are probably other reasons that could be used. Maybe they fall under the maybe it was physical illness or something, but someone was saying it could be useful to use remote if there's a snowstorm out, right?
Yep.
But that technically wouldn't necessarily fall through. Hey, Jonathan. Something like that wouldn't necessarily fall in line with one of those 5 reasons, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Weather's a great example. I hadn't even thought about that, but yes, weather.
You could argue that geographical distance might be interpreted to mean, if I was playing a lawyer,
right,
I would say the whole reason the geographical distance is in there is because it's inconvenient for somebody or unsafe for somebody to travel a certain physical distance to get to the meeting. So you could certainly make the argument that if the weather is dangerous to travel from your home to wherever the meeting is, that physical distance is preventing you from doing it.
You could.
I think it would be easier if weather was inserted, though.
Weather or, family commitment, professional commitment. There are a lot. I'm almost with Glenn that why don't we just, do away with the notion that you've got to have some excuse and just sort of say, if you need to attend remotely, then you can attend remotely.
Yeah.
But that would be, obviously at the discretion of the select board to decide what they wanted to recommend. But yeah,
I think the original motivation for this way back when a year ago was that they didn't want people to just kind of like, I don't feel like going.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think, there has to be some notion of urgency or importance to not being physically present, rather than just saying, you can do whatever you want. Because again, I'm just trying to parrot what I remember from the original intent was that people should be present if they can be. Right now, nobody can be. In the future, some people can be, but again, other people, maybe they can't travel for various reasons.
Right. Right.
I wonder if we now are kind of questioning the motives and the not motives, but the reasoning behind why a physical quorum is even necessary. What is it about a physical quorum that provides a better meeting, better outcome, more visibility, more anything, right? I don't know that we, given what our experience is now, can say that we missed a whole lot.
Well, there's certainly chair people of some of the other committees who strongly voiced the desire and need for physical meetings. So, and we may not necessarily feel that, but others do, and I do reflect that sentiment
I get that, and but it's not a mandate as to whether all should need to require. I mean, it's more of an opening up of, and again, you know, I would question what is the value of a physical quorum, right? And have we not proven recently that it's not not needed?
Yeah, I mean, I mean,
go ahead, Paul.
It's interesting. I mean, there are, I mean, my thinking is what we really want to do as an organization, let's forget about the fact that we're a government, is to make it as frictionless as possible, both for people to meet and do the work of committees and government, and also for the public to participate in those deliberations and learn from them and have access to them. And to the extent that technology can help us do that, we should embrace it. You know, there is, as with anything, there's a kind of a slippery slope, right? Where you can imagine, like, well, if our whole government just all of a sudden just went totally virtual and nobody was meeting anywhere, everything was all online, then you can sort of say, like, well, I'm not sure I like that. You know, I like the idea of, you know, my government being people who I can go and, you know, watch them interact in person. On the other hand, you know, the old idea that, oh, well, you know, Paul's in California on business. We're just going to have to kick the business of this committee down the road another 8 or 10 weeks until we can arrange a time for him to be in the same room as the other people. That doesn't make any sense either. I mean, you can say, like, well, not everybody has access to the same technology to access this, you know, not everyone has access to the technology to participate in these meetings. And so when you go fully virtual, you know, you're kind of cutting out people who are on the other side of the digital divide. On the other hand, you know, you could very easily say, well, let's solve that problem as a community. There shouldn't be anybody who can't participate in these meetings online. And maybe the you know, the benefit to the community of just solving that problem, you know, is a lower cost than holding back the operation of government in the name of, you know, the small number of people who are stuck on the wrong side of the digital divide. But you know, I think there do need to be, I would agree with you, Phil. I mean, I think that the last 9 months have shown us that not only can committees meet entirely virtually and do their business very effectively, but that in fact, community participation has increased. As you remove the barriers, as you no longer ask people to come down to the Chenery meeting room at, you know, 7:30 on a Tuesday or Wednesday evening after a long day of work, and you now say, you know what, just stay in your living room, you know, like sit on the couch and watch TV with your kids and have your laptop and participate in the meeting that way. People do it. And why not? And
I agree. I think there might, you know, given our current experience and it's sort of, you know, it was mandated that recently that if you wanted to attend a meeting, you had to cross the digital divide in whatever means you had available to you, and everybody's got a phone. Everybody can go, you know, be on right. Zoom.
Yeah,
and,
right.
You know, so
right.
I think
right. that you're talking about a very small number of people. Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me that we're kind of proving that there's more value to a completely remote, you know, situation that provides a norm of that you can be in your living room and attend, and that's you know, perfectly acceptable, versus the you know, you have to be you know, you have to physically get in your car and go cross town to get to the meeting, right?
I think it's asking for a lot of people. Again, there's digital divide is a real thing, but the physical divide is an even more real thing. People have other commitments that keep them from traveling. Some people have a hard time just, you know, some people don't drive at night, and to go to to physically attend a meeting in the middle of the night, well, everything seems like the middle of the night because of daylight savings time, is a hardship for them. So,
I mean, how many of us have like had something where you're like, I really want to go to this meeting, but like, you know, it's 7 o'clock. I've worked all day long. I'm like home. I'm exhausted, and like I'm just staying put tonight. Like, you
I think
know,
everybody.
Well,
everybody, right?
furthermore, there's the issue of
Maybe not Glenn.
there's the issue of many more popular meetings not holding to their agenda. So people who might be interested in an agenda topic that's listed at half an hour or 45 minutes in the meeting have to cool their jets for like 2.5 hours because the agenda item beforehand ran long. I mean, that was like the last time the ITAC was up there. That was true, I think, right?
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
something was in line in front of the ITAC presentation that caused us to all have to wait for an extra like hour. So that discourages public participation. But if somebody can watch,
I don't want to be cynical,
participate
Jim,
from-
but some
watch our-
people have suggested that some of that may be intentional.
well, maybe so. But I mean, that certainly makes it more convenient for people to attend and participate in a particular topic if they can just kind of tune in to the topic they're interested in.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
You're not
that
cynical,
said,
Paul.
yeah. Oh, am I, can you hear me?
You're not cynical.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I can hear you.
That said, my guess is there are probably going to be some rules of the road that need to be hammered out. I think, Glenn, I don't know about you. I mean, I or the others. I mean, I think we do a pretty good job of sort of anticipating some of those and highlighting them for the select board around. I mean, the big ones I see, and I had somebody actually from the community ask me about this, are about first of all, live streaming the meeting, but also recording meetings, whether there should be a mandate that every meeting get recorded and the recording saved by the town, or whether that should be at the discretion of the committee. And then, I don't know whether the town will want to set some kind of guidelines of saying, listen, once a quarter or, whatever, we want your committee to be meeting in person, just because. But I could certainly see there might be the town might want to set some kind of guidelines like that.
Yeah, I mean, at the onset, I'd be satisfied with it being at the the discretion of the meeting organizer. But certainly, having open meeting law require a physical quorum is, I think it's, again, it doesn't really answer the question, what is the value of a physical quorum, and is there more value in permitting the quorum to be not, is it just better for everybody, and is it more modern, and is it, is there, what, I guess that's what I would ask the selectmen to consider in their deliberations is and I don't know that we've really articulated that in this paper, is that, we should really be doing we should ask ourselves, what's the benefit, what are the benefits, what are we trying to get out of this, and how can we best support that?
So speaking a little bit of cynicism, what do we think we could realistically convince the select board to advocate?
You mean to the legislature, to Will and Dave?
Because what we're talking about here is something that the legislature has to do, right? OML today,
yes.
If the selectmen do item number 1, we still don't get, all virtual meetings. There's that, because the current OML still has it. So we're asking the select board to advocate for something. And what's occurring to me is, we're kind of giving them a list of things to advocate for. Will they view that as a single thing and throw out the whole list if they don't like a piece of it? Or, how do we present that to, and I don't know them well enough, as to what the likelihood of buy-in or that kind of nuance, from them. I certainly feel like at least one of them has not been very enthusiastic about anything we've talked about. So that's kind of a worry.
Well, I mean, it's a deliberative body, and I think that they'll, weigh. I think, they probably have their own feelings about it. I think they're coming from different experiences themselves professionally and so on, and maybe different levels of exposure to this stuff. Although at this point, all of us have a lot of exposure to online meetings. But so, their feelings now, 10 months later, may well have moved from where they were back in March. Yeah. Say again?
I would hope so.
Yeah. I think I really see this as sort of, I think Belmont by and large has had a really good, experience of, moving to this virtual meeting platform. I think that, the clerk and the select board and the other, town committees have shown good leadership on it. And my kind of advice or encouragement would be to say, listen, let's both this community and maybe the state get in front of this problem rather than letting it bite us in the butt and have the scramble to do it. Because, if we drop out of this executive order and go back to the OML world, it's going to be a real cold shower for a lot of these, groups that have been meeting very effectively over the last 9 months online. So let's try and, like you want government always to do, let's try and anticipate problems and address them before they become problems. So I think, locally they can only do what they can do within OML. That's pretty straightforward. I can't imagine there's going to be a lot of pushback on that. But maybe some rule making that needs to happen. And then on the bigger part, I would just say, it's a time to kind of, make your voice heard with, the Will and Dave indicated that they were kind of looking for guidance or input from the town's leadership as to what their feelings were. And I think the select board, they're the town executive, so they would be the ones to have that conversation.
So, but we didn't really answer Dave's question of, is this a smorgasbord of recommendations that we can ask them to choose from among, or is it an all or nothing proposition? And I would prefer the former. That to me the most important is to allow a physical quorum. And to allow a quorum to be not physical, and at the discretion of the meeting organizer.
Given, let me add to that in a different way. Given that we've spent, I don't know how many minutes talking about just one of the nuances, my fear, or I think one possible scenario might be the selectmen take a look at sort of the laundry list of potential issues and potential areas where they might want to weigh in on, and say, we're busy with other things, we just can't deal with this. So and they may say, well, it's not really our role, we don't want to get involved with the legislature. So I think we should be prepared in that scenario, or maybe even be proactive in offering to the select board the idea that we would then just pick up where we left off. That is, we continue the dialogue directly with Dave Rogers and Will Brownsberger, where I think they are more receptive to listening to all the nuances and making an informed decision.
Perhaps with their guidance, but yeah, I agree with that notion.
I think that's just right, Jonathan. Yeah.
I agree with Jonathan. I also wanted to, I've been scanning through this again, and I think we need to give them more than just, it's very convenient for us to do this. I think we can give them more benefits that maybe we haven't talked about yet, or they haven't considered. It's expensive to have in-person meetings. You have to have a building. That building has to be open. It has to be, maintained. It has to be staffed. If you can do a lot of the business in small committees, it's going to be less expensive for the town or for the state or for whatever body of government. I mean, what I'm hearing is that a lot of companies are looking at how successful remote work has been, and with mixed results, admittedly, but some of them are considering never going back. Why would we rent this enormously expensive office building in downtown Boston when we get the same amount of work done when everybody's working out of their kitchen? So, government can benefit from this as well.
I hear you. And I think the other big piece is just the attendance and the public participation in meetings. And I know it hasn't been across the board. There are obscure committees that still meet with nobody in attendance every week. But certainly if you look at, select board, school committee, I was on a electric light board meeting earlier in the week, and, there were 15, 20 people, virtually there. I mean, that never would have happened, never previously. So, and to Dave's point, I think, Glenn, on the guidance in terms of the state OML, I mean, I think the suggestions we have are pretty straightforward. I don't think that they're I don't think it's either both or nothing. I guess you could do one and not the other, but they're both pretty common sense, get rid of the whole physical quorum requirement and either dispense with or greatly expand the list of reasons that somebody might want to, might need to participate remotely. And I think those two are just those two changes are pretty easy to understand. And I doubt legislators will struggle to wrap their brain around that. So, I mean, I think, but I don't think, Glenn, you intended them to be, coupled to each other in any way. It's just the two changes.
Right, they could be either or.
Yeah. So the one other change I thought we needed was maybe just some graphics, some visuals around some of the survey data. And Glenn, I don't know if we have the raw data that we could access, but like I'm seeing maybe just a pie chart or something like that, just to highlight some of the big takeaway data points. Knowing that people are busy and are probably going to skim this rather than read it cover to cover.
Right. Yeah, no. If we want to suggest, what those pie charts might look like, we could certainly add them in. And yes, we have, quote unquote, the raw data. I mean, the raw data was really emailed survey questions that they then responded to via email.
Okay. I just think the main, public should be able to virtually attend meetings of their committee, where we have the more than three quarters, about three quarters strongly agreed. That one I'd like to call out. And then let me just see. And then maybe the other one would be if we went back to tomorrow, what would you like to see? I guess those are the only two really where I feel like it would probably benefit from a graphical accompaniment. Others, anyone else have thoughts on that?
I agree that when we have data that we can present graphically, pie charts and bar charts are always a visual hook.
Mm-hmm. And if we want, I could, let me just see. I was going to say, do we want to add stuff about, increased attendance or, anything like that? But I mean, I think it's very, very solid as it is. I mean, obviously, as Glenn pointed out, this was a report that we gave to them well over a year ago, and this is a presentation we made to them more or less 9 months ago. All we're really doing is sort of updating it, 9 months into a huge townwide experiment in totally virtual government, and saying, kind of let's get in front of this a little bit and clear the path so that we can make a seamless transition from the executive order state of emergency to the post-COVID, non-state of emergency, and without there being any hiccups. So I think, and I think if we were to meet with them, that would probably be our words of advice. There doesn't seem to be any reason to hold off any longer.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I guess if we were to do this correctly, we probably would have gone back to the folks that we surveyed and asked them again, okay, given this new experience, what do you think? And then we could summarize that data. And then, but I think beyond doing that, I think that the updates that we can provide are our own experiences and sort of, what we anecdotally hear.
Well, Glenn did the survey fairly recently. I mean, he did it, what, two months ago or 3 months ago, Glenn?
Oh, okay.
So it captures.
It was in July or August. I can't remember exactly.
Oh God, was it that long ago?
Yeah.
Oh my God, time is like totally.
Yeah, time is weird.
So I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm just saying, what is an appropriate update, and how shall we couch what the update is? And I think that there are some, I don't know, I think some universal experiences that we've all had that we can pretty much summarize and weave into this. And that's kind of what we're talking about now. So
yeah. Yes, I would agree. I mean, I noted there was a piece on voting where we were basically saying, oh, like voting in virtual is, terra incognito. And that's no longer the case, right?
No, it isn't.
Committees have been voting and collecting votes virtually for months now. So I just updated that to just sort of say,
Yep. And let's face it.
I guess the challenge is we're going to need a process for hybrid where you've got some people physically in a room and other people remote, and you need to manage the vote across those two environments. I guess that's a slightly different scenario, but
Yeah, I mean, we can. I think it's pretty safe to assume that if Grandma wanted to talk to the grandkids nowadays, she figured out Zoom.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so true. Yeah.
So I think there's some universal truths, honestly, that I would feel as a committee that we're okay weaving in here.
One of the worries I have is that it all comes down to the opinions of the select board. And I mean, we have to present the data very positively, because I know there are people who just hate doing anything remotely. They always, I have coworkers like this. They still want to meet face to face, and no one meets with them, but they're still always asking. So, I don't know if any of the members of the select board are that way, but if they are, then just telling them, see, it's not bad. It's not a convincing argument. We need to say, look, we have data. A lot of people feel the same way we feel. And, civilization hasn't ended. So it works.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of my point, is that, in order to really make that argument completely convincingly, and if we were to do it right, then we'd probably do yet another survey. But I just don't think that's, I think that there are some very convincing arguments to be made without that extra data. I don't know, Glenn, you seem, you're quiet there. What are your thoughts? I know we're kind of in a sense kind of giving you more work here, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm open to, this is meant to be representative of the committee's recommendations. I'm sort of the conduit. So, some of this we hadn't talked about in detail before. So I just wanted to have something that we could all react to, right? And that's the purpose of the discussion. So I'm certainly open to it. I would ask for some help in revising, to be honest. And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there was, Paul's document, I more or less left intact, right? And I know that there were some edits in the sections that had pre-existed, the more recent edit, and that's great, that's fine. But the challenge here was, yeah, you could rewrite the whole thing given the experiences of the last 9 months. What I tried to do was try to carve out some pieces of the existing report that made sense for us to insert some of the sort of newer experiences and newer recommendations that we were trying to put forth, while keeping as much of what we had before in there, recognizing that some of it had, quote unquote, gone out of date or, had been superseded by, current events, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm glad someone did go through, and I think, Jonathan, you were one of the ones who did a lot of this, like went through and looked at what had been there before and made some adjustments to that. I know, Paul, I think you had done some of the same. In terms of the recommendations themselves, I wanted at least them to be in places that made sense that we could then expand or revise, right? And I think, again, it's the first one around just getting them to vote on allowing remote participation under existing open meeting law. That our recommendation there hasn't changed. Right?
No.
Now, the one thing I did do is I went through and I looked back at the March 16th minutes, right? And they're pretty good in the sense that whoever took those minutes noted some of the conversation and some of the quote unquote arguments that were made to not, vote on this issue.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if I recall, select board member Epstein was concerned about executive sessions.
Mm-hmm.
There was some concern around what is the protocol for setting up the meetings. There was another one around, I forget, there's one more in there, but the point was they've all been addressed, right? Because, the meetings are going on. And so I didn't even bother putting it directly into this report because I thought that would be something that we could bring up in a presentation directly.
I'm wondering if it isn't worth, sort of finalizing this as well. This is where we were essentially pre-COVID experience, right? And just an additional section saying, some of the points that we're bringing up that have borne out to be quite valid are points that we made going into that meeting were looked at as, well, we just don't know. We don't have to do this now. I think I made the point that, hey, listen, we're going to have to solve executive session because why? Because we're all going to be remote pretty soon. So, those kind of things. And Roy was, I think, maybe right at the time, I don't know, but, he said, well, we'll wait and see. Right. So I think it's worth a section just saying, hey, listen, a lot of things were borne out in our COVID, experience. And, that we found these, that there's evidence to support that, with executive session can be handled, that, all the things that we're just saying, right?
Right.
So that would be my suggestion is just finalize what we have here. It's great. I liked it a lot. And then add an additional section saying that is explicitly post-COVID knowledge gleaned. I don't know how to put that necessarily, but.
No, I mean, it would be so hard to sum up the post-COVID knowledge gleaned. I would just sort of say, on the other, honestly, let's not put gobs more effort into something that, again, I don't know that the selectmen are going to be scrutinizing this document. I think the high-level takeaways here are, set Belmont up for success in the post-COVID, post-executive order world by green lighting remote meeting participation now so that we can at least take advantage of what OML allows us to do.
Yeah.
And, maybe Belmont wants to be a voice of reason and, work with our representatives who are, quite influential and well thought of on Beacon Hill to say, let's make sure that all towns, let's update this circa 1980 open meeting law, 1970 open meeting law to reflect, modern technology and what we've all just gone through in the last 10 months.
Yeah.
And kind of leave it at that. I mean, I don't think we need to cross every T and dot every I in terms of our argument.
Right.
I don't think it's going to make a difference one way or the other either.
Okay.
I would just I would really be in favor of just kind of approving what's in here, approving any edits that are made, throwing in a couple of visuals and giving it our blessing and passing it off so that we can meet and talk about it in January along with the other executive report.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, if I thought like there was
I agree with you, Paul, because let's take the second piece of it, which was the changes to OML, right? And let's say they do decide to say, okay, let's draft a memo that says, okay, our stance is XYZ, right? They're not going to read this per se and say, oh, you told us exactly what to do. Most likely they would say, okay, we, either the select board will need to come up with what that memo looks like, or we're going to tap someone and say, create that memo for us, right? And,
Or they could as we discussed, we might suggest that we serve as the town's liaison to
right.
Yes.
So
and,
yeah.
and so there are multiple options, and so the point is that why try to guess what that outcome looks like and then incorporate it into a document, as opposed to just saying, we believe you should take a course of action that leads to this kind of outcome, regardless of how it gets executed.
Yeah. Is it worth, though, explicitly addressing, as you pointed out, I guess we can do that in our briefing on the report, to say, by the way, executive sessions were handled. We have experience with it that we can relay, and we know that the select board went into executive sessions and et cetera, right? That concern certainly has been allayed, and then take a look at it. I presume I guess my thought was that we could kind of address that in the report, but we don't have to do.
I would prefer just to do it in a presentation to say, last time we brought this up, you had raised these questions. Do you feel like the answers to these questions? Because over the last 10 months, people have been operating with some answer to each of these questions.
Exactly.
And yes, they vary by committee, and you could either try to systematize that, or you could grant the committees the flexibility to choose their own adventure within the guidelines of OML.
Yep. Okay, so I think what we're saying is let's kind of put a bow on this one as is. At some point later, we'll work on the presentation to the select board. It'll include some reasoning around the arguments against what we had proposed earlier, and then we'll also include the offer to serve as liaison to the state for the Belmont perspective on this.
I think that's I think that's the way we should go. And we could obviously maybe want to have a short presentation to accompany this or not. Just manage, some of this stuff can just be managed at the level of a conversation between us as the ITAC and the select board on, the specifics, or, again, offering, hey, if you don't want to take this on, we're happy to be the liaison and confer with Will and Dave about our recommendations and relieve you of that duty because you've got a lot on your plate. So that's what I would say.
Sounds right to me.
Okay. Can we approve it pending the edits, or how does that work?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, as amended, right? Which is
as amended, yeah. And the amendments
and then in somewhere in here, you had mentioned the the visuals. What part did you want the visuals? Paul?
On those first two survey questions, Glenn, the 73%.
Okay.
And the other one on, if the executive order ended today, what would you want?
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll just throw in like some pie charts.
And somebody want to move to adopt this report as amended?
No move.
I second.
I'd like to, I'm not hearing your audio anymore, Paul, but I'd like to just clarify what it is we're voting on. Like, are we just limiting the editorial changes of the team to the changes that are already marked in the document and nothing else, plus adding a couple of graphics? Or anybody else hear Paul? I can't hear Paul.
I cannot either.
No, I lost him.
You lost us.
Yeah.
No, he's gone completely.
How about now?
I can hear
Now
you.
we can hear you.
I can hear
Now?
you.
Yes.
I can.
So, having some-
Okay, so you're saying the only changes will be accepting the Google changes that are already in the doc?
That's right. Yes.
Oh, well, I mean, we're going to have to allow Glenn some leeway to do his
And the
his-
insertion of the two graphics.
Yeah, so I would say that what we're voting on is to allow Glenn to finalize the document with, only the changes that have, well, I mean, with the changes that are recommended, including graphics and any minor additional edits necessary to complete the document.
Could you define a minor additional edit? Is it like
That's not
spelling
pedantic.
spelling corrections or things,
Yes.
adding commas and things like punctuation? Okay,
I trust
Breaking two sentences into two different paragraphs. That type of stuff.
okay.
Recalculating the table of contents,
I'm
etc.
down.
etc.
I'm down with that.
Okay, great. So somebody want to make that motion on the report, which is the enabling remote committee work report for the Belmont Select Board?
I think it was already moved. I was just asking a clarifying
Oh, okay,
question.
okay.
Well, we clarified it, so either we have to remove the previous motion or accept the previous motion as amended.
Let's
Accept the previous
I
motion
don't
as
think there was
amended.
an amendment to the previous motion.
let's
We just clarified it.
Let's remove the previous motion and retry this again.
All right, how do you want it worded?
I'll take a stab at it. So let's approve the enabling remote committee work report for Belmont Select Board as edited by the committee and with changes suggested in today's meeting and any other minor corrections needed to finalize the document.
Yes.
Somebody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Let's start with Jonathan Green,
Aye.
Dan Ellard,
Aye.
Glenn Wong,
Aye.
Jim Barrett,
Yes.
Jonathan Burge,
Aye.
Charles Smart,
Aye.
Phil Lawrence,
Yep.
Paul Roberts is aye, and David Goldberg.
Aye.
Great.
It's incorrect.
Glenn,
there.
you
Paul
can,
Roberts is I.
Paul Roberts is aye, yes.
You work on your grammar there, Paul.
I am what I am. Glenn, you can, if you want to approve those changes, or I can, if you give me the data, I can put the graphics in and do all the tidying up. Or it's totally up to you. I know, you've got a lot on your hands.
Yeah.
So
No worries.
so-
I'll take care of it. It may
Okay.
not be within the next 48 hours, but it'll
yeah, somehow this is not going to go to the top of the pile yeah. So we'll do that. I will, as I did with the other last report, submit it to the town administrator and the select board, and I'll try and get in Patrice's calendar for sometime after the new year to talk about both of these reports and kill two birds with one stone.
That'd be great.
Great. Okay. Thank you all for your hard work on this. It's been a long time coming. I think it's, again, events kind of overtook us. All the stuff on Meeting Owl seems kind of quaint now, but might become relevant when we go back to meeting in person. But I really do appreciate all the hard work on it. And I think both the 21st Century Government Report and then this in particular were really good work by the committee. So thank you. And then the only other agenda item I think we had for this evening was to have a discussion about what we want to do in 2021 as a committee, and some ideas or thoughts about areas where we might turn our attention and focus. And so I thought I'd throw the floor open. I've got some ideas, but I'm sure you guys do as well. Or not.
Well, we talked about this, but it seems like a lifetime ago now. We talked about more stuff for the committee that used to be the Public Health Committee, but got renamed. What's her name now, Glenn?
I'd have to go look it up in our minutes. I think it was like community awareness. Is that it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, so first order of business is remember what our committee name is.
Yeah, maybe we need to have new subcommittees with different names. I don't know. Maybe it's
Yeah, I mean the focus there had been around education still, right? Or like community awareness, outreach, working with some of the local groups. We'd actually had requests that we obviously canceled right before the pandemic around like helping out at this, providing a session for seniors at the Beach Center, or I think the library has always been keen to work with us to provide public service forums, right, on topics related to technology, and again, just being a forum for public conversation.
In theory, we can still do that, but the format's going to look very different. Instead of being, a live in-person thing, we could have, a Zoom, conference, or we could just record things and put them out there, and people could come and consume them whenever they wanted.
Yep.
But there's a lot more production that goes into that than just having somebody do Q&A.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely an appetite and a lot more opportunity for us to, be out there exploring important topics, that are before the town as a town, and also that people are encountering just in their daily lives, and help to kind of bridge that gap. And I mean, we've already talked about cybersecurity, but man, there's a lot of work to be done just in the community around, education and awareness around cyber threats, and I mean, that's just a bottomless well in some ways, where there's need. And I know the Belmont PD has some resources, and Dave Peto's done some work as well, but I think the need is even greater than that. So I think there's always going to be a role for us there.
Paul, would you consider it beyond the purview of the committee to extend that kind of outreach to keeping kids safe online?
I don't know. I mean, I think the public schools does some programming around that.
Yeah, they do.
But potentially, I don't know. What do others think?
I would hesitate to take the responsibility to for us to take the responsibility to keep kids safe online, I think it makes sense for ITAC to provide input to whatever body is responsible for that. This has come up with the schools in the past, and I think so. I think there is an opportunity there, but I would really hesitate to have us as a bunch of volunteers being responsible for it.
Right. So we did actually have this as a significant portion of our agenda about 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
In which we kind of researched the iSafe program and kind of brought that to the schools in general, and they have done quite extensive work on exactly cyberbullying, programs. I think the adoption of iSafe was put into place in the schools. It's probably something that we would like to, in my estimation, it's probably something we'd like to get, a new update briefing from, Mr. Petto and Mr. Mazzola, and just see where we are and take stock of where we are, and then see if there's something else that we'd like to do. But otherwise, I agree with everybody. It is something that we put some energy into a while back, is all I'm saying.
So I wasn't aware of that, and I think that's great. But for the record, what I was actually thinking in my mind was not actually education directed at the kids, but at parents who anecdotally, many of whom don't seem to understand about parental controls and are sending their 8 and 9-year-olds out in the world with access to the entire internet. And, like I said, I asked the question because it does seem like it might be a step too far outside our mandate as an IT committee. But.
Well, my suggestion just for tonight's discussion would be to note it, right? Because the whole idea here, I think, or Paul's intent was to brainstorm, right, and come up with topics that we could then maybe discuss further or decide later.
Absolutely, yes. Right? No decisions need to be made tonight.
And so one other one I want to suggest in the same vein, and changing topic, and that's why I made the preamble, was that we had started at the town administrator's request to look at that 5G building request, right?
Yes.
And I don't know what happened to that, right? But 5G is not going away. We're seeing increasing marketing, so I could imagine that just being a topic of really interesting conversation. And like, how do we inform the public about what it really means? Like, there's the marketing hype, and then there's the reality, and what it mean for Belmont, and So I think that would be an interesting area of exploration.
I think you're right, Glenn. And I think actually doing some sort of, work on behalf of the town to really sort of look at, leaders, kind of leading edge communities, both, here in the United States and maybe even internationally, in the 5G space, and then also kind of sketching out some of the danger areas or policy areas, putting Belmont in a position where we can have a very well-defined, well-thought-out plan before, the push really comes. My sense is the push is not happening yet, but it's going to be happening soon.
Right.
At the time we last started discussing this, and the urgency for it was that there were companies kind of trying to bully their way into turf war, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
I'd love to get an update from the town on, okay, well, we gave them a report on that. We kind of gave them a heads up on what's happening in other communities. What did they do about it, and where are we?
Right.
So I think part of what I would suggest is it's time for us to get back with Steve and
Patrice,
and everybody, and say, okay, well, where are you? Where are your big what are you thinking about? What do we need help? What do you need help with? And by the way, where are you on these things that we talked about? Give them a couple of suggestions for topics.
Right. So again, just in the spirit of brainstorming, I'm going to throw another idea out, which is that I'm sure many of you have heard in the news, there's a lot of governments that are looking at some of the big tech companies and basically cracking down them on sort of antitrust grounds or competitiveness grounds, right?
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, Google, I'm sure Apple will get in the crosshairs soon too.
Yep.
And so another thing that might be interesting, again, for us to consider is if some of these services, in particular Google, were to come under scrutiny, what might that imply, or how might we be affected? Because, for example, all the school systems are highly dependent on Google Classroom, right? As a touch point, right? Is there something that we would need to be mindful of, or is there an implication that we'd have to consider? Right.
Yeah, it's good not to get caught with our pants down on something where, oh, there's a big shift that's coming. So that I mean, how much do you think that there is an actual risk of, Google antitrust, situations affecting Google Classroom? I don't know.
And that maybe nothing. I don't know. I'm just trying to align like certain topics that are up.
It's a good thought
today, and how it may actually impact us, even if, we may seem quite far away from DC or any of these other centers, right? Like the pervasiveness of these technologies and the players are actually quite important for what we do from a town perspective.
I mean, I think if the Microsoft antitrust case is any model, it's going to take years and years for these things to play out in court. However, I think you raise a really good point, Glenn, and there's probably a bigger point as well, which is, in addition to our involvement with companies like Google or Microsoft, these large now cloud providers that are providing the infrastructure on which our town operates. So there's the issue of could they be broken up by the government? Yes. By the FCC, the FTC. There's also the kind of question, the bigger sort of hairier question of, data privacy and data custody, and how well, do we want to establish policies as a town to protect the privacy of our students' data, of town data, either from them, reusing that, mining it for commercial purposes and what have you, and how closely are we looking at those types of issues as well, beyond the, getting hooked to the gills on some company that then gets broken up or goes offline or something like that. So that would be the other piece of that is, how should we be looking at those issues of, okay, all our kids are using Google Classroom. What does that mean exactly? Is there data that is living in Google's cloud that actually we should be retaining and holding on to, or even having control over going forward? Are we doing everything we can do to protect the privacy of our children's identities, or are we setting them up to be marketed to for the next 50 years, in the course of them doing their AP bio homework? Good question. I think they're kind of intertwined with each other. But yes, yeah.
So another topic, just
yeah.
Sorry, I'm sort of throwing out ideas, so please stop me if others want to get a word in edgewise.
I love it.
Is obviously with the COVID, our school system and other town departments, but school system in particular has had to adopt a very wide scale remote capability, right? Providing devices at scale to grades that they probably had not had plans for, right? Moving down the chain. So something that might be interesting is, while we're still in it, and then hopefully we'll soon be out of the pandemic, is there an assessment of, lessons learned, or how that rollout went, or where were some of the missteps, or where were some of the opportunities that were uncovered in that whole process, right? And so it's a little bit of a retrospective, and potentially a study, if you will, of what could be improved the next time we have to do something like that. So. And it doesn't have to be confined to school. It could be, on school, town departments, when they went remote or semi-remote? How did that work out? What were some of the lessons learned? What were some
I mean,
of
I think
the things they should plan for in the future?
I think one of the issues that came up definitely with the move to remote classes is access to technology. And obviously the school system made a point of making sure that every student had access to a device. There were also, or are also, issues just around access to broadband. And, you know, it's not a huge population in town, but there is population in town who does not have access to broadband for whatever reason. I mean, I think one issue that's interesting is that whole, you know, we've got a municipal fiber network. I mean, should we be looking at towns that are offering, you know, municipal broadband to residents and you know, at very, you know, discounted prices from what you get it from Verizon or Comcast? And is that something that's within reach for Belmont, or is that not?
We did at one point have somebody from the light department who I think had since retired.
Left.
But
Jim Roy, I think, was.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He described what they had done in Concord.
Exactly.
Right. When he was there, I think he was the associate in Concord.
So, I mean, to me, this is coming back to a number of things where why don't we circle back with the town and say, okay, what happened to all these initiatives and where are we? And I mean, I agree that's providing municipal broadband, and you know, this is wirelessly, right?
Could be, yeah.
That he was talking about, right? They were.
He was talking about. They did fiber. They did it through their. Took advantage of the fact that they were wiring up something for their meters or whatever, and basically going to every house with fiber and saying, "Hey, you know."
I thought there were mesh devices on poles.
That's what Belmont bought.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was a different discussion.
Yeah, but that's not for broadband for.
No, that's just for the smart meter. Yeah.
That was just for the smart meters. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was an additional technology that we heard about at some point, which was, you know, mesh wireless broadband on poles. Yeah, I may be misremembering it, but I
think
remember
that was part of the smart meter rollout.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. In any case, there might be, you know,
capabilities there.
Yeah, capabilities there as well.
I don't remember the details on the smart meters, but I thought they used a different waveform, not compatible with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I don't recall it being that, honestly. I thought there's yet another technology that we had heard about.
Yeah.
And I think that might have, anyways.
Well, I mean, my thought would be, let's look at, you know, again, as with everything, look at what other communities are doing. I know there's this like Institute for Local Self-Reliance that has a lot of information about municipal broadband around the country and communities that have done it, and sort of see what, I mean, obviously we're in a different position. Many of these are rural communities where they don't, you know, they have, you know, maybe one provider or no providers, you know, so there's a real urgency to do it. That Belmont isn't in that situation, and maybe it won't make sense. On the other hand, we do have a municipal electric company with, you know, lines into every house in the community. That could be a foundation for doing something. And obviously, I think, you know, Belmont Light going forward is going to be interested in diversifying its offerings and its role as well. So who knows, you know, I mean, who knows what might be possible.
I thought we had some sort of agreement with our current providers to not compete with them, basically, that they would give us a good deal they would give us a good deal to the town in return for exclusive access to the market. But I don't know, Charlie, does this sound familiar?
A little bit. I guess.
What's a good deal?
Yeah.
Are we getting that good deal?
It's a long time ago, though, I think, at this point.
Well, like we run our fiber through their conduits and things like that.
Okay.
Well, certainly,
or maybe it's the other way around.
Verizon,
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Verizon owns half the poles in the town.
That's right. Yes. And Belmont owns the other half.
Yeah.
You mentioned, and I wasn't aware of this, but then again, I don't monitor the Belmont Citizen Herald that much either, especially nowadays, that the former head of Concord that was the head of Belmont Municipal Light has left. Is that true?
Yes.
No, I didn't know that, but it's certainly the person who gave us the lecture.
That was him indeed. As a matter of fact, I thought he looked like a college kid, but he corrected me very quickly about that. But you think that he's left? He's left.
He's definitely left Belmont. Yeah.
Really? Any idea what and the reason I'm pursuing this is, were some of his ideas about municipal broadband just not well received by his?
My sense is he got a better offer. At least that was how I remember reading the article.
I think he was frustrated as well by the structure of the town, where the select board is also the light board, and that there was, I think that was complicated things for him in terms of management of the utility.
Well, I was just wondering if he did make any progress. It sounds like he didn't, about this municipal broadband opportunity, or whether he found out what Dan believes, I believe, is the case, where
I'm just fishing here. I don't know if this is the case, but I remember something.
Okay.
I still think it's worth, let's get a couple of things that are important to us, like iSafe, the broadband. We mentioned a couple other things that were initiatives at one point, and kind of get see if we can get the town to dust them off and tell us where they are on them.
Can I throw one more idea out there?
Sure.
In light of the headlines right now about the Russian hack of the U.S. government and the solar winds, whether we should be, and FireEye, whether we should be looking at software supply chain risks or vulnerabilities, and whether the town is, needs to be have contingency plans, or better monitoring to address those types of risks as well.
I once asked that to somebody at Resilient, and they basically said to the Bruce Schneier. I asked that question to Bruce Schneier, and
God bless you.
I know.
My old TA.
And his answer was, if a state actor wants you, you're done. So I asked him explicitly, should we be thinking about what, our run books are for that? And maybe that's not exactly the right answer, but I will tell you that was his answer.
True enough.
Yeah, I'd expand on that and say, yes, it's just like if there's a burglar who wants to get in your house, no matter what lock you put on it, on your doors, they will get in, right?
Right.
If you have a determined sort of opponent, so to speak.
Right.
The other flip side is, what sort of protects us is, like, what would be the net benefit of someone attacking the town?
Right.
Right. We're not exactly a big town. The only thing I could imagine is something like, we've got, a famous notable who's living in town somewhere, and, information about them could be used in creating a dossier on them. But then it would be a very targeted attack, and it wouldn't be something widespread, unless they do widespread damage just to cover tracks. But again, it'd be hard to.
They could probably get it with an open record request, a public record request. Anyway.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Bridge too far. Got it.
Well, I'm shooting out down ideas I shouldn't be. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no. That's exactly what I want to have happen. That's what this is all about. Okay. We've got a lot of great ideas. I think Glenn's 5G idea, I really think there's a lot of value add for the community and us doing more brain work around 5G, because I think we're in I feel like we're in a lull right now for a bunch of reasons, but that this is going to be an issue that is going to come back at us very hard and very fast. So again, the more we can help prepare decision makers, town administrator, and so on, the better. So I think that should definitely be a front burner issue for us in 2021.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we should continue, I mean, I guess, we should just sort of write these up and maybe in our next meeting, kind of take a yay or nay vote on them and pick one or two to charge ahead with. Okay.
Yep.
And maybe the things that don't get traction from the full committee might wind up in subcommittees.
Yep.
Yeah, we can stand up some subcommittees in our January, our kickoff meeting as well, and get off to the races.
Some of these may not be
Yeah.
sort of full research projects either. We could think about having, theme nights. So, one of our meetings will be devoted to one of these topics, maybe a couple of our meetings, devoted to a topic, and then we switch. We just have a discussion, sort of as an extension of the discussions we've been having to this evening, about these issues and what the impact might be in the town and how we think we might be able to help or, raise certain issues to the level of the select board or not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we need to leave in some capacity for the fact that we may be tasked with something by the town administrator or somebody else. So we always need to kind of plan accordingly that stuff may be put on our plate.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Jonathan, just to sort of plus one what you just said, I could also imagine, rather than us saying we're going to go out, do research, come back, or do a big research project, we could also look at opportunities just to self-educate, meaning like, hey, why don't we look for a speaker who's well-versed in XYZ and invite them to join a meeting and spend half an hour talking to us about topic X so that we can
Great idea.
collectively get smarter and ask some questions so that we are informed if and when those questions come to us. Right?
I like that idea. Yeah.
We've done that in the past, and I think it was very fruitful.
Yeah.
And make those available to the public and kind of promote them as well as, let the public in.
Right. You might want to start off with 5G, you never know.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I don't know much about it beyond, just what I learned during putting our first report together. So absolutely.
Yeah, I think we sort of dismissed it as being impractical for Belmont because of what we saw as a line of sight limitation at that point in time. But maybe things have changed, and it might be very beneficial using your argument that we might want to prepare ourselves educationally for what's coming ahead and what's going to bother the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator. 5G probably will at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what's unclear with the new administration is whether the FCC will be as, bullish on, letting telcos kind of have their way with communities on 5G deployment, or whether there'll be a little bit more of a balanced approach. So that may change, and that may be to Belmont's benefit, but I don't know. Okay. I've got a bunch of things here. I can write them up and share them around, and people can obviously add. We can have a shared document people can add to.
I've got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of them that I managed to catch and write down in the minutes. So I know that's probably not exclusive, or
great,
or fully inclusive, I guess is the right word I should say.
That sounds great. And let's unless folks have other business before the committee, I think let's schedule our next meeting.
Sounds good.
So one thing, do we want to try and for 2021 just have a standing meeting that meets at the same evening every night, or do people feel like with work and stuff that it's going to be better to just do it from month to month?
Seems to be working month to month.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, that's fine.
Unless you find this portion of the meeting either
I
burdensome.
really don't, but other committees are like, what are you talking about? We just set our meetings in January and that's it for the whole year. And I was like, somehow that doesn't seem to work with my committee. I've got a lot of people who are, have busy professional schedules.
No, there's too much unpredictability in our schedule.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, everybody traveling all the time, especially.
This past year we could have done it. It's been quite nice, but I don't feel like that's going to last.
CVS and back. Really get
when we all get vaccinated, I've got a backlog of a year's worth of travel. So
yeah. Do we want to say let's see, the weekend of the 18th or the 25th of January? Wednesday evenings generally work for me. If they work for other people, we could do the 20th or the 27th or
20th.
20th works for you, Glenn?
Yeah.
20th is inauguration day. Aren't we all going to be busy?
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm going to be pretty drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you talking about? It's not going to happen. It's going to get overturned.
Inauguration.
I'd vote for the day before or after, if that's okay, just because people might want to watch.
Yeah.
Go out and buy your guns just in case, right?
I'll be busy.
Well, if we're not doing it on the 20th, I'm busy on the 19th, so I would vote for the 21st.
Okay.
Ooh.
Let's do 21st.
That works great. Same bat time. So we'll plan on 7:30 on the 21st of January.
Yep.
All right.
Can I make a logistical suggestion, which is
oh, that's my daughter's birthday. I may be out.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
It's actually not my favorite day either.
Do we want to do the following week on the 27th?
We can do it on the 20th if you guys want to do it on the 20th. I'm happy to be outvoted.
27th is fine.
27th works for me.
Yeah, it's the 27th. Yeah.
Sure.
My logistical suggestion was that if there's a Google Calendar invitation, that the meeting information be added to that.
Yes.
Yes.
Did I not put it in the?
And I apparently what I pasted into my email got the format screwed up, and I apologize for that. I had to go to the town website myself to get the link.
Okay, I will make sure I do that. I'll set it up now and just send the calendar invite out to you guys. Okay.
Cool.
Sure.
Awesome.
Okay. Somebody want to move to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hey guys, have a great holiday and thanks so much
too.
for a great
Thanks.
year worth of work. It's been great working with you all.
Likewise.
Likewise.
Right.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Have a great one.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good one, guys.
Stay safe.
Good night.
Yep. Bye.
Good one.